Hello everyone and welcome back to another special review of the year. And we are now coming towards the millennium. We now finished 1997 of classic EastEnders.
Gosh, I can't believe we've got through 12 years worth of EastEnders. How many years? When did we start? 3 years ago? Because the classic EastEnders came out just as we started the podcast, didn't it?
About 3 years ago.
So we've been watching classic EastEnders twice a day for 3 years. Fantastic. I've enjoyed every single minute of it.
So and what's good, because there's 2 episodes a day, the episodes build up on your recorder very quickly. And it's a really good indication of how good a year is. Yeah. Because we can find sometimes, maybe in 1997, there were times where there was about 20 episodes backlogged because weren't that bothered by watching it. And then you suddenly catch up and want to watch the next one. So it's a really good way of knowing how good the year is.
But I think it's with the other years as well, when things start to build up, we're a bit like, oh, okay, it's a bit of a slog, but we have to get through them. So we kind of watch the week's episodes, but then something happens and then we can't stop watching them because the back end of 97, certainly, we kind of caught up and all of a sudden we were watching them almost as they were being broadcast every day.
It was a bit dodgy. It was like the beginning and end were good, but there was a real lull in the middle. Ted Hills, we're looking at you. We're looking at you, Ted Hills.
I mean, we'll have a lot to say about Ted Hills later on, I'm sure. But even Joe couldn't save the day, could he?
I know.
Joe and Lorraine.
Joe, he kept having his hair cut shorter and shorter and shorter, didn't he?
He kept going up and down like a blooming trampoline, his hair. And it's real sad.
The sex icon of 97 left us.
I mean, I get it. I mean, I must have missed it when I was younger.
Now we just left with Sanjay again.
He is also a sexy icon, but I don't know why Gita keeps disappearing and leaving him all the time. I mean, the actress who plays Gita must have had a really nice contract to every now and then she's a bit I've had enough, but almost out of the blue would be I've had enough of you, Sanjay. I'm going to leave again.
This year she was pregnant in real life, so that is her excuse. But she does just disappear for months on end, which is very bizarre.
Yeah. But it was always the first time it made sense. The second time it kind of made sense because she had the affair. But this time it kind of just came out of the blue. It was I don't like your mum. I'm leaving.
And it's not like they didn't know she was pregnant so they could write a story, but they didn't bother. They just were like, oh, you're maternity leave now, get in a taxi.
Yeah.
She just went somewhere in a taxi. It was very weird.
No Julie's theme.
They never really have a big storyline, the Sanjay and Gita, do they? Bless them. But this year they had the wanting a baby all of a sudden.
Yes, and then his manhood was questioned.
Yes, poor Sanjay cried on the sofa.
He did, because his sperm wasn't strong swimmers.
No, he had low sperm count, and his mum arrived, and she bought the
Minute Mark.
Not the Minute Mark, the first or last.
First of all, sorry.
And then she's kind of disappeared. Her character just disappeared and never really seen, is she?
That's true. She bought the Minute Mark. There was quite a big story as well that she bought the Minute Mark because Carol was worried about her job, which she was right to worry about because she was just thrown out on her ear. And then, nothing really came of it other than you heard, like I say, the reason Gita left then was because Gita said that her mum was interfering too much. But it was all done off screen. So you just they had this conversation at the beginning of the week, and then at the end of the week, all of a sudden, she was like, no, I can't take any more of your mum. But nothing was shown on screen.
Very strange.
It's a shame, because I like Gita and Sanjay's characters, but they're really... I love this term, doing the dirty. I feel like they're doing the dirty on Sanjay, because they're making him more and more kind of almost caveman.
It's like Ali Osman, kind of, from the 80s.
He's just kind of but not even... Ali wasn't even that bad.
I don't know, have you got...
I've got rose-tinted glasses for Ali, I think. I mean,
Ali was a right old...
But it says something how we've got to 97 now, and I do say it to you now and then. It's it feels like we are now out the, I would say, classic era. I know a lot of people kind of draw the line of where the classic era is.
We do say this every year.
That's true. But it's now that we're looking back from 1997 to 1985. And saying the good old days. That's happening now. And so I imagine at the time when people were watching EastEnders as well, it was it's not Ali, is it? It's not Ali and Sue.
It's the same with Bianca and...
Ricky.
Tiffany.
Sorry.
They're like Michelle and Sharon, but they're not quite... do you know what I mean? You keep comparing it to the old now, which is very...
They're like the first and last store version of Michelle and Sharon, aren't they? Sharon keeps getting mentions this year as well, doesn't she? Because the relationship between Grant and Tiffany...
I wonder if they're on the phone to Tish Dean, secretly begging her to come back.
Well, at this time, I think she was doing I've sung the theme tune to you. I'm not going to sing it on here. Yeah, she played a woman who worked at a... telephone centre, directional centre, when they used to move the wires from one. Who are you calling? Okay, cling. And and had 2 series, but it was god awful. But I definitely say look up the theme tune because it is catchy.
Sung by Letitia, isn't it?
Sung by Letitia Dean. She was doing it for herself.
She was busy.
She was busy working on another BBC show at the time.
So if we're going to go through our exits quickly for this year, there were some surprising exits which we've never recovered from. Jules.
I mean, his exit was so quiet as well. He literally came on the Christmas Eve episode. He was in the square and he was like, "Hello, everyone."
And he gave a fiver to Sanjay, and then the camera panned away from him quickly, and then that was it. I forgot Jules even existed. I'm amazed he was still on the books.
Well, I mean, they always drag out the because they did it with Ethel, didn't they? And who's
Nelly?
Nelly, yeah. They
Dr. Legg didn't appear though.
No, sadly,
which was weird.
I think it's in his last appearance in '99.
The next guy,
and the new Doctor comes along. It's Doctor Who. Dr. Legg regenerates and becomes a new Doctor.
The lovely Felix exited and took Blossom with him.
Well, that was the biggest contention, wasn't it? Because Blossom was a brilliant character, and I really enjoyed Blossom, and then they decided that Felix, again, it kind of came from nowhere as well, because Felix kind of wooed her a couple of times, and Dot got a bit jealous, didn't she? Because Dot thought that Felix had affections toward her.
Right, and then must have been last year.
No, it happened at the same time.
No,
because he invited Dot out for a drink. Yeah, because I think that Felix was trying to test the waters of who he wanted to take with him to Israel.
Right, and he chose Blossom.
And he chose Blossom, but it was only meant to be a short trip. And we've not seen him ever since. I mean, it's such a shame.
And Felix is another one who was just point like, I don't understand what happened. Something went wrong there behind the scenes, I feel, because it was just weird. But he left. Joe and Lorraine. Joe
and Lorraine are by far the biggest impact that's happened to me in the 90s. By far.
Really?
Because they've had the best stories. They had the best ensemble, also with David, with Pat, with Grant.
The actors all got on well.
The actors worked well together.
Lorraine was very good. She was a character who was very easily could have been annoying, like an annoying mum.
Well, yes.
But there was something about the actress which gave Lorraine... She felt like a real person, didn't she? That was what it was. And real people can be a bit overbearing or a bit silly when it comes to their sons. So, yeah, they had a really good run. They were on it for about 2 years, weren't they? And they had the storyline and didn't outstay their welcome. No,
they left at the right time. I think if they stayed any longer, I think they would have given them a story that perhaps would have tainted their character a little bit. But, I mean, Joe was close to doing that because he literally hormones kicked in and he decided that he was going to make love to everyone on the square. Yeah. Oh, Mary.
Talk about her later if we have to.
Michelle too, as I'm now
the crap for
Michelle. Yeah, crap for Michelle. Oh dear.
So really good scenes with Joe's schizophrenia and
perfect scenes.
Yeah, very very well.
I mean, again, I'm not going to compare it to modern day, but if you're going to compare it to modern day,
you can't.
It's not a patch, is it really?
Ted Hills, he had his big exit because this is when he was the worst character. But this is awful. When the show was a bit dull, and then this storyline happened, and all of a sudden it picks up again. Was when Sarah slept with Robbie. Ted Hills found out and then thought Robbie raped her and then beat him up and then found out actually no, it was consensual-ish.
Well, this is my point. I mean, I would happily have someone get in the comments and let me know if you disagree or agree with me on this, but I don't agree with what Ted did. He didn't need to beat up Robbie. He's annoying and I don't like Ted Hills, and it surprises me that he is the brother of one of the most wonderful characters in the world, Kathy. How they're related, I do not know. But I don't think Robbie should have slept with Sarah because he could see Sarah wasn't in the right frame of mind.
Robbie is a stupid, immature fool, and he was also a virgin. That doesn't excuse anything.
It doesn't excuse it.
But
he was eager to. He wanted to sleep with Sarah,
but he did ask her over and over again. But he still did it. So I don't know.
Yeah, but he should have read the room. He should have seen that she wasn't.
Of right mind.
She wasn't. No. She clearly wasn't.
And she never slept with Joe, but she slept with Robbie. Biggest mistake if I was a teenage girl back then for me.
I know.
I mean,
it's not even a step down, is it? It's just it's literally you're already in the pit. You can't go any further. If that's your first,
Robbie's your first, and then you turned down Joe Wicks. So no wonder he went back to Bolton.
I would also like to say that Robbie still hasn't grown on me. I thought that I had memories that Robbie was a much better character in the early days.
I thought he was good at the early days. As a geeky teenager, he was fine. But then he just stayed too long. And now he's like Hugh. He's just not really with it. But his relationship, his storylines... You like Hugh?
I like Hugh and Lenny.
No point. No, Lenny's all right, but Hugh, no.
Well, Lenny cracks me up because every time he walks into a room and he says a line, he kind of goes like that and then starts saying this line. He kind of struts his hip out like that and starts saying, like, a guy clearly can't do that. I'm not Lenny. But, yeah.
Hugh is pointless. They obviously know he's not any good because they never involve him in storylines.
I think you'll be surprised next year because I think there's a spin-off episode next year because it's the French Euros or World Cup.
Are they involved in that, are they?
Yeah. I'm obviously not going to talk about it because it's not 98 we're talking about. But yeah, I've no problem with Hugh and Lenny because they know their place. They know their C-tier characters.
I mean, their big storyline this year was the weird storyline where Ricky was training to be some sort of motorbike.
Oh, motocross! I forgot about that. Yeah, because I had to explain to you that in the 90s, in the late 90s, it was really took off. It was so popular. All my friends used to be like, "Do you want to go to the motocross track tonight?" And I'd be like, "No, not really." But you knock yourselves out.
Yeah, that was weird. It kind of happened. There was like a weird summer storyline, wasn't it? But that was the dull period where it was like, "What's going on here?" And yeah, Ricky was about to become like this famous stuntman, and then he chose Bianca, and then Bianca wanted to be his manager, and then he was like, actually, no, I don't want to do it. And then they're like, okay,
I know.
End of that storyline.
I know, it's so strange that they
could have been famous like his daughter Tiff, but
one day, if any Instagram existed then.
We also had the end. I mean, this mainly was happening last year with Sarah's cult and Frankie trying to sleep with everyone she could, and she was trying to sleep with Tony. She tried to sleep with the cult leader.
Yeah,
he wasn't interested. She just exited in the middle of an episode as well, which was weird. But the actress was getting loads of like abuse in the streets from her character, so she was just like, no, let's go. So they ended that. Alistair disappeared, and Sarah found a new vicar, a nice friendly vicar this year, Alex. Kathy's old bit on the side.
I see, again, this is where we split our agreement here, because I don't think that, I think Alex is a very interesting character because I don't think he is. His dad's interesting, but he's not very interesting because he got introduced at the end of the year.
This is Mel Owen's brother and son.
But Mel's never been mentioned. Her other sister has.
But who gets written out of history.
Yeah, but Mel's never been mentioned. And also, no offence to the actor, but I just find him terribly dull. I just find him very one tone.
That's what Kath needs after the year she's had.
Maybe. I
mean, did you want to talk about Kath and Phil's year? Because they've had quite the dangerous year this year. Because
real roller coaster.
His alcoholism story started, and he went to AA meetings. Him and Kath broke up, got back together. She brought him back in. She stayed at Pat's, and she came back to Phil again.
She counselled him. She helped him. She took him along every single step, even though he was objecting to any help from any outside. He was like, "Oh no, I can do it myself." But Kathy was adamant, "No, you have to do it." She wanted to take counselling as well, so she knew the right thing to do. She took all the correct steps.
He took those pills, and he wasn't allowed to drink. And then he tried to drink, and then Kathy stopped him.
Yeah, knocked him out of his hand.
Went to a cafe after his AA meetings and bumped into a lovely woman called Lorna.
Yes.
Who, she wanted a piece of the Mitchell pie.
She did.
And she got it quite a few times.
Quite a few.
And yes, Phil was having his affair, but also blaming Kathy for it at the same time.
Because it's never Phil Mitchell's fault.
No.
Something that still doesn't change to this day. Never his fault.
I mean, Phil now, he still had quite a few human moments. There was a really good scene on, was it Christmas Eve, Boxing Day, where him and Kathy had it out, and then Grant and Tiffany had it out on the same episode.
That was the Boxing Day episode.
Like, there was loads of still moments where Phil seems like a character or a real person, but this was the beginning of Phil's end, really, where he became not relatable and just a nasty character, in my opinion. But
no, I agree. It's so difficult to sympathise with Phil because
he never accepts that he is the one who did wrong.
Yeah.
It's always someone else.
Yeah. And that's like I say, and that's still the case today. It's never his fault. It's always, or if he realizes that perhaps it might be his fault, then he kind of finds a road around, figuring it out that, oh no, well, it is my fault, but it's because of this. Yeah. And so then it's actually, then he's passing on the blame to someone else.
And Kathy were broken up for months. And, because they went back to Paris where they first kissed, and she threw a ring.
Well, that's when he admitted to the affair because the woman kept sending flowers and alcohol-free champagne.
Yeah, she phoned the place, didn't she?
Yeah. To find out where he was staying.
So they broke up months ago, and then she was obviously talking to Alex the vicar.
Yeah.
Nothing else that Phil knew of, and then Phil threatened him and told him to back off. So
yeah, because she's my woman. Ugh, club. Idiot. Dragged to the cave.
I'm glad that Kathy kept saying no to Phil as well. Throughout the year, he kept trying, and she was like, no. And she stayed with her no, so good for you, Kath.
Of all the characters, to be fair, all the characters that you knew that would not go back to someone, it was Kathy. And that's why, again, it's a bit of a shame when you kind of look forward and you hear about what happened in South Africa and how she kind of submitted to
Gavin.
Yeah. And so it kind of made Kathy feel a bit like, obviously it's perhaps a different environment. She didn't have her friends around her. It wasn't more of a kind of a family kind of, in the square.
Plus they needed an excuse for her to have faked her death and not been like they needed to write that into her. But it didn't match her character. No. But it meant that she came back to the show, so...
That's true.
You allow it.
Yeah. But come back to the show and every now and then make jokes about her age and that she's disappeared every now and then. But yeah, no, it was a great story. And like I say, it built Phil's character up. And I think it was this, I don't know, I find it really tough when people say like, I really like the character of Phil, because I don't think we're meant to like Phil. I really don't. And I think even then it was written that we're not meant to like Phil.
Grant was always the more developed character.
Yeah.
And I think when Ross Kemp left, like they were like, okay, we'll just transfer that onto Phil, but it didn't, I don't know.
It was untransferable.
There's something about Grant where you like, even though he is way worse than Phil, like he's abused so many women, but there's still something about the way his character is written that you kind of like him in a weird way.
Well, Grant.
Which you shouldn't really, if you think about it.
I mean, it was tough this year to like Grant, because obviously his relationship with Tiffany was kind of, he broke up with Lorraine, he got back together with Tiffany, he realised what he had with Tiffany.
Just because Courtney was his, basically.
Essentially, but he realised what he had with Tiffany was fine, good, it was easy, it was,
It's what Peggy wanted.
It's what Peggy wanted. He then wanted another child, and Tiff didn't. And then
she hadn't been sleeping with him as well.
Because she said that she realised that they weren't making love, that they were just having sex.
He was rough with her and things, yeah.
Well, also, I think he was just doing it for the motions of having a child. He just wanted another child, and she was almost like a baby machine to him by the end of the year.
I mean, originally, he was meant to rape her on that episode.
Yeah, that's hard to hear.
He pushed her into like a
bedside
table instead, but Ross Kemp refused to do it. So that's why... And also, Martine McCutcheon was ill during the year. So when the Bianca storyline happened, when she had her termination, that was meant to be with Tiffany, but it was with Grant. So Grant was really like sympathetic for an episode, which was meant to be Tiffany. And then the next episode, he was like
slagging Bianca off
for having it. Yeah. So it was all a bit messy, but it's things that happened off screen, which you couldn't help.
With Martine McCutcheon, her singing career was surpassing Ola Tish.
Not yet. No. I think she had glandular fever is what I read, but I thought that because I've heard that she was a bit difficult on set towards the end.
Allegedly. If Martine is
Read
watching.
Martine's autobiography, she denies it. But who knows what the truth is.
But yeah, so that kind of made it a bit difficult I think the Mitchells had the brothers at least, had a really hard year this year.
Peggy refuses to marry still.
Yes.
She won't do it.
Well, she doesn't want to leave the Vic. But again, brilliant. If you think about it, because now it was always remembered then by every executive producer, because the Vic was basically Peggy's third son, wasn't it, if you think about it? And so the whole reason she didn't want to marry wasn't because she didn't love him, or because it was because she didn't want to leave the Vic. That's essentially what it was, and she wanted to stay in the Vic.
I don't know. I don't think she does really. There's a reason why she refuses to marry. I can't remember his name because he's so...
The gangster.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. What is his name? No idea. His daughter's called Annie. She arrived this year.
Loose Women Annie.
Yeah. Nadia Swallow, isn't it? She's alright. She's
I don't mind her.
She knows what she wants. She gets what she wants, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She's a businesswoman, and she's worked... To begin with, she was kind of not involved with anyone, but she's slowly worked her way into the darts team and into Ian's, like, campaign.
Oh, yeah.
And now she's like, there's like a thing with her and Phil and like working in the club, and Phil's turning into a gangster slowly. This is where it happens because he's going to be the muscle and she's going to be the brains or whatever. So,
but it's okay for Phil to have a new relationship, but for Kathy to have one, that's
well, that literally happened after that episode where Kathy said no, let's get divorced. He loved her, and then he walked out her house and into the club. So, he moves on fast.
He does. But yeah, I liked Annie. I really like Annie, actually. And I remember, again, when I was watching it, as a teenager at the time, I remember liking her character. And she's never really done anything since, has she? Other than, like, panel shows, the actress. Which is, I think, a shame, because I think she's a good actress.
She's okay. I mean, she's all right. She's, like, she's not... she's not Hugh, but she's not amazing.
What have you got against Hugh?
Hugh is like the worst character at the moment.
I think you're Welshist, quite honestly.
No, I'm not.
No, he's not, to be fair. He fancies every single Welsh rugby player it's going.
What about the other new character then? Almost related to Annie, which would be Polly, the Gazette reporter. Speaking of great characters.
I hate storylines when they're trying to replicate something that is something that is almost a cartoon. So they're trying to replicate what people's images is of a newsroom, but it's a local newspaper. So I know in the 90s newspapers were still probably being read a lot more than they are today, but there wouldn't have been half as much like craziness that was happening in that. No. They were writing it as if it was a national newspaper, and also Tony, who I cannot stand this year.
Horrible.
He's just horrible. Again, selfish. All he thinks about is himself. It's okay for him to have affairs, but multiple. Multiple.
God knows who.
As soon as Simon, his ex-partner, starts dating someone else once
when
they split
single,
up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's inexcusable. But anyway, Tony then, and out of nowhere, so Tony starts off being T-boy, like a week later in this newspaper room. A week later, he then writes an article about a guy who got some medals for doing something in the war.
Yeah, he got his name on it on the writing credits, didn't he, with Polly.
And that was him. He was like, his head was growing from that point. And then he...
Working undercover all night, weren't they? They were just going all for it, trying to expose this MP who turned out to be secretly gay. Tony didn't want to expose him because Tony knew what that felt like.
It was a moment of redemption.
But then, a week later, he was banging on Carol's door, getting exclusive interviews about Billy's kidnap and
take a photo. Yeah.
So his moral compass was all over the place. But yeah, Polly, she's another strong female character, I guess. But there's something not quite great about her.
Not easy to relax into with Polly. She's just, I don't know.
The character doesn't fit EastEnders. Like, that's just not a type of character that fits that world.
But that's what I mean. It's a story that doesn't... The whole story doesn't fit EastEnders. Like, even today, like, if it's a writer from the Gazette, they're seen as a bit like they're kind of poking their nose in. But with this, we're meant to be with them trying to investigate all these stories. Yeah. And it's just not interesting.
Doesn't work well.
I mean, Irene likes Polly, doesn't she?
Well, she was a new arrival. Speaking about blondes that like just slot in automatically. From Irene's, like, Ted left one episode. The next episode, Irene appeared and it was like, okay, this is what the Hills family unit maybe should have been.
Irene is Ted's ex-wife, and Irene had
Kathy's ex-sister-in-law.
So Kathy and Irene don't get along very well. But Irene had an affair, didn't she? And then left. She then left the house, didn't she?
Something. I'm not really.
She left them, so Ted had to bring up the kids on his own.
And she abandoned the kids. Well, that's what Ted told them, whether she did or not.
I mean,
Ted probably refused to let her be in the life.
Probably because Ted's a knob.
But Irene was great. Terry was great. They had an automatic sort of relationship.
Terry and Irene, yeah. Terry is, we should, in case people don't know, Terry is the father of
Simon.
Tiff and Simon.
Yeah. And Irene's the mum of Tony, and Tony and Simon are together, which is really weird. But now Irene and Terry are together. So they're like, it's very weird. But that's probably brother-in-law. And they're also together, so Tony and Simon.
Yeah, but in law, so they're not brothers by blood. I'm still not getting my incest story here.
Although they've broken up now, thank God.
Yeah, so. But maybe they broke them up for that purpose. But then Irene didn't like that she thought her son was gay, so she's been trying to set up Tony with Polly the whole time. Yes. So it sounds complicated, but it's an interesting story. I quite like it.
Some characters come in and they just look like EastEnders, like Pat. Like she came on her 10 episodes in '86, and she was EastEnders. And Irene is the same, and Terry's the same. Polly, not. So there you go.
Outsiders don't like them.
No, we had really good storylines this year with Ricky and Bianca. Because they got married finally after all this time. Frank turned up at the church, did his one scene and disappeared.
Again, tremendous scene.
Mike Reed, yeah.
And it's nice that they can get actors to do that. Again, I wish they could convince actors to do that today. Like, just kind of pop in for one.
Yeah,
I know
they have a big thing. Like, just have them come in and do what he did, because he didn't come back for months after. And it was a really fun, happy episode. There was the hen night and stag do before, which was really fun, where they woke up in a field and they thought they were abroad.
The guys, they had the stag do. The guys woke up, but they thought they were in France, but they weren't.
Something like that, yeah. It was really funny.
But it was French exchange students.
That was it, yeah, that they talked to. And then, just fun episodes, and the wedding was fine and happy, and it was all good. And then they had like quite a darker storyline towards the end of the year, but it was a really well portrayed one.
Patsy Palmer, I have to say, I've always thought that she played Bianca a bit. She was one
shouty.
Yeah, she was one character shouty.
Well, she's remembered as shouting Ricky, but yeah.
Yeah, but for seeing this story where she had to make the decision whether to terminate her pregnancy because she found out that her is it her daughter?
Natalie? Was it Natalia they called her? Natalie or Natalia?
I'm not sure, but she was severely unwell, and it would mean basically caring for her for the rest of her life.
Didn't she?
That's right, and brain damage. And so Bianca made the decision that she was going to terminate it, but it was just it was just beautiful, really well done, really. Because
it wasn't like she was there waving a pamphlet around saying this is what they had really realistic conversations between like Pat came over and had a little chat, and Ricky spoke to Phil about it, and there was all these sort of conversations of should you not?
What's the moral compass? But at the end of the day, everyone said that, there's no shame in saying that you wanted to, because that was the thing. Bianca and Ricky couldn't have that conversation together because neither of them wanted to be the one to say it. It's like us trying to decide what we want for dinner. Neither of us want to be the first one to say what we want for dinner. Obviously, it's not that shallow.
So we get Pat over to help.
So we should get Pat and Phil, because Phil was great with this scene.
He was.
And it was lovely, again, seeing it from the two perspectives. So Bianca spoke to Grant, but we know it was probably meant to be with Tiff. And you saw Ricky's perspective of it too, because obviously it's a decision. Ultimately, it's the mother's decision. But the father, he's losing a daughter too. And so it was nice, but it was done so respectfully. It was done with care and no sensationalism whatsoever. And it was just great to watch 2 episodes where you were you're in the world with them, making the decision with them.
And it was really good because obviously Bianca kept the pregnancy secret from Ricky to begin with, and she thought about having an abortion and not telling him. And then she obviously felt guilty thinking, oh, I wanted to get rid of this baby, now this has happened. And there was a really nice line where after it happened where Phil was working with Ricky, and Ricky was like being a bit uppity, and he said it's okay if you want to cry. Yeah, and it's like that's a really un-Phil sort of thing, but it's really nice. Two mechanics working on a machine, and that's what they say. So some really good, powerful storylines. It's a shame that Carol wasn't there.
Yes,
like she just left a month or so before.
I think it was a couple of weeks because Bianca went to visit her, and then she came back, and then she had the story.
So that is a shame. Like they couldn't have just got her back for like a week or so just to be with her. But
it's funny.
Lindsay's back next year. She's back. She gets dragged back in.
We should say why Carol had to go, because Billy got kidnapped from school because he witnessed with Blossom.
A big storyline that was like it was quite a few months between the actual bank robbery and the kidnap, wasn't it?
They gave it time to actually develop and swell and show the nervousness with the family of whether Billy should give the evidence.
Blossom was out there. She was in Israel. She was fine.
Yeah, well, she kind of dropped to the
she ran
a little
away.
Bit there. But
poor Billy got picked up at school, didn't he?
Yeah, by that substitute teacher. She cracked me up. There was a substitute teacher.
She ran off the van.
She like the Running Man or something. She just brilliant. Absolutely. She was a bit like Callum, I suppose, when he ran.
She jumped in the back and off they went.
And off she went. But she was the one who in the end kind of gave up the location of where Billy was, and so they found Billy. And Billy
she did it so she got off. Basically, she did it as like
essentially. But she didn't get off from a tongue lashing from blooming the family, did she? Especially from Carol.
No.
Carol screamed at her and she was like, I didn't mean to do it, I promise. And he's like, yeah, well, you did. So Carol had to leave with the Jacksons, but it was like
the witness protection, wasn't it?
Yeah, witness protection somewhere. But it was funny because it was almost like the writers were like, but we really like the Jacksons and we kind of want to keep writing for them. So then Sonia comes back and then Robbie comes back. Yeah. So Alan and Carol have gone with Billy.
Yeah, but Carol... I don't know where's Sonia live?
Oh, Sonia was living with Bianca and Ricky, but she can't be anymore because they made the spare room into the baby's
room. They don't
room.
really explain that. I just remembered.
Maybe
bad. She lives with Carol in London, but comes back to see Claire or something.
No, because she still goes to school with Claire.
Oh yeah,
because Claire had the bullying storyline, Nigel's daughter, where she was bullying the kids at school, and one of the teachers kept warning Nigel. And Nigel's like, no, I don't believe it. Not my Claire. Claire's innocent. She's got a halo and everything. And then we found out that Claire was bullying. But the reason Claire was doing it was because she was worried about getting bullied so she didn't get bullied.
And Nigel took her to his old school, saying, "This is where I got bullied." And then they
got picked up as being a paedophile. Yeah,
they thought he was harassing Claire,
harassing children on the playground.
But he's met her teacher, and there's something bubbling there for next year as well.
Yes. So he keeps getting her French videos, porno videos, no less. homeless, but he doesn't realise, does he? He keeps buying like French porno for her.
Dot returned and left and then returned again. So June Brown was back after her dramatic exit after Pete Dean's sacking. So she got over that. Pete Beale. Well,
yeah, she needed the money.
So she was back and she returned. She was lying basically about how happy her life was, wasn't she?
Yes.
And Nick had gone off and this weird man sort of broke into her house wanting money that Nick told him about.
Oh,
it was all a bit odd.
That's right.
We're not sure if that was meant to be Nick, but maybe
I'm sure that was meant to be Nick.
Maybe he wasn't available, so they just made this odd man. They were almost saying to June, come back, see how you feel, and then go, because there was another introduction with Diane Butcher.
Yeah.
When they went to Paris for a few weeks and they came home with Diane, and that sort of just happened because the actress didn't. She felt like it. I looked it up. The actress said that it was like going back to school, but it was different friends there. Basically, she wasn't settling in, and remains unnamed. But one of the younger cast members went out to her and was like, oh, I can show you around if you want, and this, because I'm Mrs. EastEnders, and they didn't realise she'd already been on the show, and they were sort of acting like she was like this new person and didn't know anyone. So I think that riled her back up, but we can only guess who that was. She only had scenes with a few people, so it's quite easy to work it out. But I will not name names. But
off camera, you have to let me know who you think it is, because I've got an idea, but I don't want to do it on camera.
No, but so yeah, she left, and that was a bit of a shame because obviously they were planning like a Butcher revival because Frank was coming back, Diane was there, Ricky was there, Pat and Roy were all. Well, something was going.
Well, there was something because Roy's lost the business, and so the relationship between Pat and Roy has become a bit damaged. So it
was almost like the classic Butcher family, apart from Mo, who has
sadly died.
But it's a shame because I really liked Diane, but you could tell she was a bit. She hadn't acted in a while. Like her episodes in Paris, she was a bit
quiet,
just not very. I don't know, not very comfortable on the camera. You could tell like her line delivery was a bit iffy, but I really like her, and I'm assuming they would have had her and Mark maybe get together because she had a kid, and and Ruth and Mark couldn't have kids.
What would Ruth say?
Yeah, I was wondering if that's what they were going to go with because she came with her boy Jax, didn't she? So I imagine that's where that was going to head eventually.
And also, I suppose because there's the Island episodes this year as well, and one of the characters,
Mary's dad was
flirting with Ruth. So I suppose that's where Ruth could have then been drawn out of the relationship with Mark, and then Mark could have then done something with Diane. Perhaps, yeah, you're right there. That could have been the case
because like Diane just leaves. But she leaves her son in Walford. It's really weird.
But then Jack goes to Claire's to be the cousin. I mean, if they hadn't written Claire as a character with the Butchers right from the beginning, I think they'd be stuck for a lot.
Clause,
yeah, it is. There is the get out of jail clause. It's like, oh no, Claire's got him, so it's fine.
I mean, you mentioned Roy's business was lost. That was obviously because of Barry.
I felt sick when this was happening.
I know. It went on for a while, didn't it? This woman appeared and she sort of wooed Barry, and to begin with, she acted a bit posh, and then she realised that wasn't quite what Barry was, and then she acted a bit common in the restaurant, didn't she? And they got engaged, they got married.
No, they didn't get married.
No, they were getting engaged to get married. It all going very quickly, and Roy had given Barry
carte blanche, basically, for the car.
I want to trust you now.
Yeah.
Because he was feeling a bit upset with like the whole David and Ricky having shares and stuff, wasn't he? So, she got it all signed over to her, meet him in the airport, and didn't really happen. And she's never seen from again either. So she got away. She was like the original Janine, wasn't she?
Yeah, proper con woman. Yeah.
And then went away with all of Barry and Roy's money. So
I mean, Barry is just so easily manipulated, isn't he? Even then, he's like, I think he just wants to feel wanted because I think his dad has always kept him at an arm's distance. Although he loves his son, he's always kept him at an arm's distance. But the one time he's now let him in and trusted him, and then this should happen. I felt awful for Barry.
Very stressful winter for Roy, and he ended up right next to Arthur's bench, didn't he?
Yes, having a heart attack. Down on the ground.
And Frank, of all people, was the one who found him, which was just like another...
But they're not telling him that, are they?
Because it would just be another... Roy's very insecure around Frank, I think, isn't he?
Well, he was, and then on the very last episode of the year, Frank went to Roy to kind of clear a few things up, because Frank had offered to pay the debt that Roy had as well with the council tax.
Can't pay, we'll take it away, came over.
Yeah, that was fun. McCracken was at the door. And
I liked that as well, because Pat wasn't like the damsel in distress and Frank helped her. She was there saying, I'm going to punch you in the face. Like... they didn't make her the damsel in distress. So that was nice.
Frank, and also Frank, I think Frank genuinely had good intention. I don't think he did it at all to kind of make
he wants to get rid of his guilt, doesn't he? And
he is. He's
dues.
Paying off, I suppose. But when Roy found out, Frank went to visit him, and then they had like a gentleman's agreement and friendship, because then Frank lied. Frank, and said that he was dying.
Yes, so he just wanted to make amends before it was too late.
And it's like, Frank, why have you done that? Why?
It's nice to have Frank back.
I love Frank. Absolutely love Frank. And I really was upset that they kind of did the dirty on him the last time he was there. And you can tell they're kind of rebuilding Frank to make the character, the viewers love him again this time around. And I'm glad they're doing that, because Frank is such a wonderful character.
Very good.
And played so well by Mike Reid. God bless Mike Reid. He's a fantastic actor.
And he has such
comedian,
good chemistry
brilliant.
with Pat as well. And Peggy later on, which will be next year. And then also at the end of the year, we had Cindy return back, because she was on maternity leave as well. Michelle Collins, and then she came back just to do, I think she does about 40-ish episodes, so she's semi-regular for a bit, because they stole the kids from Italy. Phil and Grant went to help because he thought it would get Kathy back for him, which was stupid. There was that weird detective that Ian hired.
Kachansky from Red Dwarf.
Yes.
Anyone who watches Red Dwarf should have instantly realised it was the original Kachansky.
She was a bit odd.
That's all I kept calling her. Every time I came, I said, here comes Kachansky. She slept with Ian. Here's Kachansky.
And then disappeared. It was all really odd. And Cindy's got this new Italian,
very
businessman.
rich boyfriend, yes.
So she's thinking that she can get away with this and get her kids back and stuff. But that's all a bit odd, because they've said there's no evidence to get her done for shooting Ian, which is a bit odd, because I thought she was on the run for doing that originally. So that's weird, but that seems to be forgotten. But now it's just a custody battle for the kids.
She is still getting... so there's still a legal case for her because she stole the children. She's kidnapped her.
But he kidnapped them back. So it's
which is what
odd.
I can't understand. So why is Ian getting away with it, but Cindy not? Is it technically because he's brought them back? And I mean, could Cindy not have a case in Italy against Ian? Because obviously the case against Cindy...
because remember, she went to the Italian police and they were like, well, you're not divorced, you're not separated from him, what he's done isn't actually illegal.
Well, then
she was
surely...
getting all stressed, wasn't she?
Yeah, but then surely that's the same case in England then.
Yeah, but she was wanted for a crime, wasn't she?
But she's not wanted for that crime anymore.
They have to wait for the court scene, because she was meant to plead guilty and she was meant to get
she panicked.
Yeah, she was meant to get 4 months in prison and then it would all be fine, but she didn't want to say she was guilty.
So she said nothing at the dock, and that's apparently immediate indication of you saying not
So now
guilty.
they have to go to the actual court where she could get 7 years. So
I wonder what will happen.
I don't know.
I kind of wish I didn't know. Obviously, I'm not going to say anyone who's not seen them. I'm not going to spoil it, but I kind of wish I didn't know what happens going forward. But she's also made friends with Mary. Mary's kind of.
I hate Mary.
I mean, I hate Mary so much.
She is just a rubbish Michelle.
Michelle too, isn't it? They've literally written her in to be a replacement for Michelle because she kind of has the same kind of dynamic with Marge.
She has the same denim jeans, same haircut of old Michelle.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the same.
Yeah. And she has 1,000 jobs, but always moans that she doesn't have any money.
Michelle moaned because she felt like she was going nowhere, and that's the same with her. She feels like she's not going anywhere. So there's a job at cafe. Oh, I'm not going anywhere. I'll try the laundry. Oh, I'm not going anywhere. I'll try babysitting Ian's children. Oh, no, I'm not having a life of my own. And so agrees with Cindy on that kind of. They have a common ground where they think that Ian is a bit uptight. But in a way, you kind of understand why Ian is that way, because Cindy has literally broken Ian
multiple times,
and Ian's had to rebuild himself. Ian's had to rebuild himself every time, and every time he rebuilds himself, a little piece is missing, and normally that piece is basically his emotion toward other people and his care. I mean, Ian's a nice guy. If you consider what has happened to him.
Yeah, he always messes up.
He does. But,
I thought that was a bit of a missed opportunity. When they had Cindy phone a mysterious man who had all this money and was looking after her, we were trying to think, I wonder who it is. It's such a shame it wasn't Simon Wicks or something, just for a few episodes, but it was Nick. And we were like, what, Nick Cotton?
Nick, yeah, no.
And then it's just this random Italian guy. But I thought that was a bit of a missed opportunity. That would have been really fun if it was Simon. Trying to get Stephen, because he's obviously Stephen's dad, but
yeah, it would make sense.
It didn't happen.
I always go on that they could bring Cindy back. Now we know about Nick and her rich boyfriend. Do you not think he could have bought his way in getting Cindy's death faked? Because he's meant to be a very rich man. I discussed this on our main podcast. So you know.
When you know more about next year, and you know more about Nick, and you know more about Cindy Jr., then this may not apply. But there's no spoilers here.
No spoilers.
I already know what happened.
Do you want to take a quick moment just to talk about the Ireland episodes?
I was about to say that because it was a really weird... Pauline had a very odd year. Like, she was barely used.
Always wearing her USA jumper.
Yeah, USA jumper only, nothing else.
No other costume, that's all they had.
Martin was recast, wasn't he? And they had Arthur's Bench and things, and he had the gang, and that was going on.
The lightning bolt. It reminded me of Bart Simpson when he used to spray El Barto on like lots of different things in the early episodes of The Simpsons.
And she found this letter in Ethel's things because Ethel was very ill, and it said it was from Lou to Ethel talking about how she had a child before she was married and it wasn't allowed, so she got rid of her. And yeah, it was really odd. We had like a week of episodes in Ireland where we met Pauline's sister,
her Irish family,
and then when they came back, we get introduced to Mary of all people, which was like her granddaughter, ish, and then Mary's dad. And it's like, well, why didn't you introduce Lou's sister like as a character? Why did they pick Mary and Connor as the two? I thought that was odd, and it was really poorly. I don't know, it was really oddly paced, wasn't it? Like, she had this letter for about 6 months, and then she went to Ireland, and then that was it.
But the Irish episodes felt like completely distant from anything that's ever been made before either.
Weird.
Because when they've ever gone to like Paris, for instance, or Italy, it still felt like EastEnders because there was always an underlying interesting story that kind of led to why they were there.
And the cast of characters in Ireland weren't like the best. Like, do you know what I mean? Like like Mark and Ruth and Pauline and Ian. It's like, really?
Yeah. Which is
the most thrilling group of people in the world.
But it's a shame because they used to be the original the Bills and the Fowlers.
Without Michelle and Arthur, the Fowlers Bills,
they fall short, don't they? A little bit. I miss Arthur so much.
Yeah, Ruth and Mark are just so dull. They're so like Ruth. Vanilla, aren't they?
I'm sorry, actress who plays Ruth, but I hate Ruth so much.
I don't even hate her. She's just so nothing. She's so
beige.
Yeah, I don't miss her at all. So I can't wait for her to leave. I don't know how she stayed on the show for like 7 years or whatever it's been.
But they got in a lot of trouble, didn't they, when they filmed the Irish episodes at the time, because it was seen as a bit xenophobic and they were being like they were kind of stereotyping the Irish
inside them and stuff.
Yeah, and they were portraying the Irish people as being a little bit dumb and a bit slow and not really realising, and alcoholics, not really realising. And to be fair, that's really not to be fair, that is unfair that they did that as a portrayal of Irish people, because by that time I think they had joined or had been in the EU for a long time and they were becoming a real up and coming country. It
was still a nice year. We had lots of trips abroad though. 3 trips, I think, wasn't it? Ireland, Paris and Italy.
Do you miss these trips abroad?
Yeah,
because they never do
2 or 3 times a year, don't they? I love it.
Even a trip to the Isle of Wight I'd take in modern day EastEnders.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
We had Southampton a few years ago, didn't we? With Clyde.
We did. We keep saying we're going to go visit these areas, but now we've moved away from Southampton. We can't do that anymore.
So I think the time has come for us to give our grading for the year.
Okay.
Do you want to go first? You usually do.
I can. I'm going to mark it out of No, I'm not. Grade. I'm going to give it a B-.
Okay.
Because it was, like you say, strong beginning, strong end. Jo and Lorraine. I will never say the name Jo in my life again without saying Jo. Where's Jo? And Lorraine's hair. Can we just mention Lorraine's hair as well? How stunning her hair was. Like this little face amongst all this hair.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm not being horrible. I love it.
Good hair, the Wickses. Simon had good hair, didn't he?
I'm a Wicks with my Joshua.
Joe has it. Dave has it. Well, David's aren't great.
Do you reckon they got it from Pat's side? Because Pat's got pretty
Pat's
stunning hair
as well.
Yeah, that's stunning hair. So yeah, B- because and some of the other things that knocked the grade down is, as I say, the Irish episode was just diabolical.
Yeah, there was some very mundane summer storyline.
They couldn't even show it on TV. Anymore.
Again, no.
Yeah, so we had to watch it through other means. And yeah, the introduction of Connor and Mary wasn't particularly interesting.
No. And they got rid of Jules, which is just...
I mean, Jules...
unacceptable.
In fact, I'm knocking it down to a D because of that. And Felix as well.
But they got rid of Ted, so,
That knocked it back up again. Yeah, B- for me.
No, I was going to do the same. B-, maybe a C+-ish. No, B-, I think, because the end was so good. But it's still very watchable. But there was moments where we had about 14 episodes built up because we couldn't be bothered to watch it. So that has to be taken into account.
But that was, like you say, the summertime, or their summertime of the show.
Yeah. So there you go. That was the review of 1997. So we have lots to look forward to for next year, 98.
Yeah.
And then we've got a new executive producer at the end of the year who completely changes EastEnders. He creates the first ever feature-length episode.
Very exciting.
Which we all may know has an ashtray involved with it.
We should say that if you have anything to discuss about 97 or anything you want to say that you liked or disliked about the classic years, then don't forget to comment below or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly.
Give us your grades.
Give us your grade, or you can find us on Facebook to join the discussion. Just search Walford Weekly.
Someone's
podcast.
already given us their grade. They gave it B-. And last year they gave it B+. So.
What did I give it last? I gave it an A- last year, I think.
Something like that.
I was really excited about last year. Bit deflated.
Arthur.
It's because of Arthur. Yeah. That's another reason why it's a B-. There's no Arthur. I'll never give it an A again. A for Arthur.
Yeah, exactly. You have to wait till Arthur Jr. is born. Right, so there you go. That was your review of 1997. So I hope you enjoyed it. And like we say, put your grade in the comments below. And we will see you again soon for the review of 1998.